When companies are seeking venture capital investment, I think it is very important for them to do diligence on the venture capital investors that are out there. They need to understand who the VCs they want to work with, the angels, the corporate investors. Each of them can add tremendous value or they can be a big detriment. And I see entrepreneurs doing more diligence on engineering tech than they do the potential venture sources. And I think that's a big mistake. These various funding sources can be in adding incredible value in providing connections, helping them with product development, clinical trials, regulatory process, helping them recruit, or they can be disruptive on the board. And each of the various funding sources has their challenges. If you're talking to a venture firm that hasn't raised money in the last 3 to 4 years, they probably don't have money to invest in a new early stage deal. The reality is the investment period for funds is 3 to 4 years, and if you haven't raised money, it's probably a waste of time for the entrepreneur to pursue funds that haven't raised money more recently than that. I think it's important that they prepare a business plan that addresses all of the risk factors, and that's the way venture capitalists think. It's about not only the opportunity and the exit value, but they also focus on how you de-risk a project, thinking about the development phase, the clinical trials, the regulatory process, approvals, reimbursement, commercialization, and those are all factors that need to be addressed. It's not just focusing on, is this a great idea? We're much more impressed with entrepreneurs that come in that are honest and straightforward with what their challenges are, because we've seen enough companies that typically we recognize where those gaps are. So they shouldn't overstate their product, the market, the team, because all of that can be addressed over time. But probably the area that we're most concerned about is the intellectual property. And are they in a space where they really have control of their own destiny? Sometimes these technologies are early enough that there isn't a well-defined IP plan. The IP hasn't issued. So we understand that and we're willing to take the risk, but we'll spend a lot of the time and money in our diligence on intellectual property. Another area that I encourage entrepreneurs to think about is what is their role in the company. The old adage is, do you want to be king or do you want to be rich and successful? And many times there's a trade-off in that. The entrepreneur is more concerned about their role in the company than they are the success of the project, and that's a huge red flag to any investor. And then the last thing that I would add is focusing on a recruiting plan. It is incredibly important to the venture capitalists because we view about 50% of the risk in the team for the entrepreneur to lay out, how he or she planned to build a top management team and recruit key employees throughout the organization.